7:01, we'll call the 2021 annual general meeting of our membership to order. So for this AGM, it's virtual. Anybody who participated in last year, goal is to follow the same general process we followed last year. It worked fairly well for us. Using Zoom, obviously things are slightly different versus just raising your hand and being able to visually see everything. We can see some of you guys with screens are shared. For those that have the video turned off, it's a little bit trickier. What we're going to ask for motions as we go through and need to either move a motion or second a motion, we would ask you to actually use your digital hand within Zoom. So clicking on the little hand raise icon, you should be able to flag it, and it'll be enough for whoever's chairing the meeting to be able to actually identify who they viewed as moving a motion or seconding it, and that'll get recorded within our minutes. When it comes to voting on items, we're going to use Google Forms. It worked well for us last year. We will be sharing a link to a specific form for each motion within the chat, and then the meeting chair would be able to monitor and will actually pop up what the results are and let everybody know whether motion passed or motion failed. And I think with that, we're ready to really kick it off. So our first motion that'll come through is to appoint a chair for the meeting. And with that, I'd like to put forward a motion to appoint Jeff Hoffman, our current president, as chair for the 2021 AGM. And I see Adam having move it. So with that, we will be able to put it up for a vote. And that should be showing up within the chat box. Right. Oh, Jeff, did you post it already? Yes, perfect. So the voting form should be in the chat box now. You can go through and click on the vote. Jeff will monitor it, and with 38 in attendance, we would be looking, Jeff, for I'm gonna have to do the math in my head, and it's struggling to be able to do it. 19 minus the household votes, which you can go back and do the recount if it comes close.
We'll just give it a few more seconds. We're up to 20 responses so far.
Perfect. So with that motion pass, Jeff, we'll turn over the rest of the meeting to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on a rainy night in October. We'll get you out of here before the ball game starts. That's our goal. Okay, so we're gonna push hard to get you out of here so we can watch some baseball tonight. So we got a few just sort of housekeeping items to get us going here. And our first order of business is to approve tonight's meeting agenda. So I'm going to bring that up on screen here so we all see it. You'll also see that all of the documents for tonight are in the chat as well. So if you haven't a chance to look at them, you got our agenda, the minutes from the previous meetings. There's 2 of them there, and then the notes of those who've applied to join the board are also in the chat. So get the agenda up on screen for everybody to see. So you should be seeing that now. And so we'll call for somebody to move the agenda for tonight. So we have somebody who's willing to move that for us. And Eric, oh, there, Glenn, perfect. Thanks, Glenn. Glenn Pyle, and then a seconder, please. Dan Gibson, got you, Dan. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So we're going to drop into the chat now, the link here to vote on the approval of the agenda. Exact same thing we just did. To get us going here. So on the selection of chair. So there's a new poll there. Click on that and cast your vote, please. And we're up to 17 responses. We're getting there, 19. We push over 20. We got 23 responses. That should be good enough. So I'll share that results for everybody here. And we should be able to see that on screen here that motion has carried. So we approve the tonight's meeting agenda. Okay, next piece of housekeeping. We need to approve some minutes over the last couple of AGMs. So we'll start with the minutes from our AGM last October, the 2020 minutes. So does anybody see any errors or omissions within those minutes that they want to present? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Will somebody move those for us, please? Eric, perfect. And a seconder. Kevin, I see your hand up, not digitally, but I saw your hand up with your camera on. So Eric Tremblay moving it. Kevin Caron is second in that. So we'll get that poll up here as well. We'll get that approved. You should see that in your chat now. We're 12 responses so far. Need a couple more here. It's 19, 21. All right, so I'll share my screen here again. And so our motion to approve the 2020 minutes has carried. Thank you very much. And then one last piece of housekeeping here as well is the motion to accept the minutes from our special general meeting that took place last spring in 2021. So those minutes were shared with the membership prior to the meeting and are also in the chat here. And so I'll get that form up on screen here so we can get this last piece of housekeeping done and out of the way. But before I do that, before I call for somebody for a motion here, has anybody seen any errors or omissions within those meeting minutes? Nope. Okay, great. So will somebody move those for us, please? Richard, yeah, I see your thumbs up. Awesome, thanks very much. And Kevin, you'll second that. Awesome, thanks very much. So Richard Elms and Kevin Caron. Okay, and we'll get this into the chat for one final vote for a little bit. You should see that in your chat, and I'll pull up that poll as well. And we're 16 votes so far. $19.20, awesome. That motion's carried. I'll get that up on screen so everybody can see that. and then we'll get into the real meat of the meeting here. So there we are, 20 votes with the motion. Motion is carried. Okay. All right. Appreciate everybody's patience as we work through the housekeeping pieces part of the meeting here. I get to kick us off and talk a little bit about our season here at GMBA. So I'm going to share a few slides here and then share my screen, and we can walk through this together here. So we had a really interesting year and a really great year for baseball and for our young ball players here in Guelph. So let's get us up on screen here. Give you a thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint slides, and we're going awesome here. Perfect. So hey, you know, a year ago when we did this, we talked a lot about COVID-19 and the impact that had on our programs. You know, we're really happy that we were able to get baseball in this year. You know, it took us longer to get started, as I know you know on this meeting here tonight. We got going. You know, we ran a really great house league program this year with lots of improvements to it. 54 teams, close to 700 players in our house league program. We were able to run a playoffs, new house league uniforms, and really run a season that looked somewhat normal to what we would traditionally run here. Different time frames. Really appreciate the parents' flexibility around the time frames and all the changing dates we had around it. But really, real meaningful season for you know, almost 700 young baseball players across our house league program. Similarly on the rep side, right? 19 teams, almost 250 players, close to 250 players, and a really successful rep season here. You know, our rep teams were not able to participate in tournaments this year, but the decision to stay within the ICBA loop and to play real meaningful baseball games across ICBA, I think really made it feel like a more normal baseball season. And we had tons of success across GMBA and across our rep teams. In fact, I would argue we were the most successful association across ICBA this year with respect to the number of teams that won pennants, regular season pennants, and ICBA championships. And a big shout out to our 8U Tier 1 team, our 9U Tier 2 team, our 10U Tier 2 team, 11U Tier 1 team, and our 13U Tier 2 team, who were all crowned ICBA playoff champions this year. Great season by all, and those teams really stepped it up when it came to playoffs. And again, lots of kids playing baseball, which was really what this is all about for us, no question. Select, you know, we were able to run a select program, modified again. You know, 5 teams. Right around over 60 players taking part in that program. And it's important for us to offer that program. It will be something that we continue to offer as we move forward. We're really hopeful that, you know, COVID restrictions loosen up and we're able to expand the size of the select program, and particularly add tournaments back into that program, which is such an important part of the select program. But for 2020, 2021, a good select season here. And I think the piece you'll find with GMBA as we move into the new year is a commitment for us to get the select program trying to go a little bit earlier if we can, and running tryouts as we get into the new year. It's all about baseball for us. We want, our big point, our focus, get kids on the diamond and get kids in the field. And when we can't be on the diamond or on the field, clinics are a big part of what we do. These are happening right now. If you don't know about the instructional clinics with our partnership with Peak Performance PPA Head House, and our wiffle ball clinic, our wiffle ball fun evenings that are happening on Tuesday nights up at Martin, just started over the last couple of weeks with lots of attendance and lots of excitement. And this summer too, you think about some of the other things that happened outside of ball. Here's our Blue Jays instructional camp, took place in September up at Hastings, sold out like that. There's so much interest and so much fun, and what a fun day for our young baseball players to interact with the Jays staff and the Jays program, and get a little bit better, but mostly just have a whole bunch of fun on the ball diamond. I think you'll see that came across GMBA this year, off the baseball field, lots of ways to try to raise funds for this organization. Jill led our Little Caesars Pizza fundraiser and had tons of pizza left in her freezer for a couple of days as we looked to sort that out across the board. Canadian Tire stepped up and provided a significant grant to GMBA this year, and Tim Hortons continued their sponsorship of youth sports, and for us here at GMBA Youth Baseball, sponsoring our Rally Cap divisions as well, providing uniforms for all those players within those divisions as well. Think about other highlights, off the baseball field, areas that GMBA moved forward this year, thanks to our awesome and committed volunteer force. Establishing our 14U advanced development program, Big shout out to Kai, who increased our social media reach by over 200% over this past year. Our social media went way up, was awesome. And one of the things I was doing as I was preparing for tonight is going through our social feeds to kind of remember what all happened last year. And Kai was capturing all that, all the ups we had, all the downs we had with restrictions coming in. Kai really took our social to a whole new level for us. Launched the Bearcats program, partnership with ICBA and the other ICBA centers. Did a whole bunch of work to update the GMBA constitution, which we are, that took place over the winter and into the spring. New house league uniforms, which looked awesome. New hats, new pants, new jerseys, right? And we implemented our enhanced rally cap program this year with real positive feedback from our parents and lots of success around our rally cap program. Other stuff off the field, food bank street challenge here. Teams, players, coaches coming together to raise money for the food bank. Our neighbor on Crimea Street, where the office is, but just an important initiative for us to give back to the community and fits so much into our model of a good sports day and great citizens tomorrow, right? What we're trying to build here as baseball players, right? And as I was thinking about our season, this slide came up as something I saw that Kai had put up on our social media feeds, and I think a few of you might remember this. I know Adam, you certainly will. We put a post out. I don't know, it was like a Tuesday morning, and by 3 o'clock that day, everything we said had changed. We couldn't do anything we wanted to do, and we were right back to the drawing board. That's for so much of this, the late part of the winter and early part of the spring. That's what it sort of seemed like for our group of volunteers, But we did, and the quote at the bottom is bang on. We at least got the ball rolling, which is absolutely true, and got us in a spot to be able to have this meaningful baseball season, which was our commitment all the way through. Even when the darkest days of COVID we're going through that third wave. Our goal was to come back and have a meaningful baseball season. And because of this group of volunteers we've got, we were able to do that. And that got us back onto the field come June with practices. And if you remember what it was like back then, practices in groups of 10, one group of 10 on this massive baseball field, right? As we tried to run practice for a few weeks until we were able to move to that next stage, and then run full team practices and eventually move to competition. To do all of this, close to 1,000 baseball players, all the initiatives we move forward, it takes a ton of volunteers, right? And these are my numbers here, but we have at least 500 coaches, managers, trainers across all of our teams who make this happen for us. We're talking about at least 10 house league conveners who stepped up to make this all happen, over 75 members of all of our committees, all volunteers, all of us who do this work off the side of our desks to make sure that this season, we have a season like we have this year, and we can continue to have seasons like this as we move forward. Our volunteers are the real backbone of our organization and a real key piece of the key to our success. Some of our leadership volunteers are up here on screen here, and so you probably can't see everybody because their heads are going to be cut off here as we're sharing screens here. But I'm going to go through our board of directors so everybody's aware of who they are. Adam Fanjoy, Eric Tremblay, Ian Dirk, Stephanie Mochuk, Steve Marshall, Rob Robinson, Ryan Herron, Jill Gillis, Kirk McNabb, Dave Shapka, and Heather Mcpherson. It's our group of committed volunteers who met with us regularly to move and to lead our organization, forward in another really difficult season, in some difficult, situation, particularly with what COVID-19 has put all of us through over the last 18, 19 months. On top of our board, we have all these committees, and I'm not going to read all these names off here, but I'm going to go through a couple slides here you'll be able to see of folks who step up to lead different areas for our organization, different committees, different functional areas as people step up to lead. And you're going to see names on here. You're going to see the same name a few times as people step up over and over and over again to lead these important committees for us, or these important areas of work, to get all the stuff done behind the scenes that allow us to have, these 1,000 young baseball players get on the field every single summer. So what that leads us to is what I wanted to end with was just to talk about a couple of things. And one of the things I wanted to first say is a big thank you. I'll say a huge thank you to all of our volunteers. And I want to especially call out these 4 directors that are leaving the board after this year. These are folks who've been around in supporting baseball in Guelph in numerous ways for a number of years. And so I just want to take a quick moment to say a little bit about each of them and to say a big thank you on behalf of GMBA and all of our players for their support and all their efforts. And so I'll start with Ian Dirk here. Ian was most recently our VP of Finance, which is such an important role for us to help us execute our fiduciary responsibility as directors, right? And it's important every single year, but particularly when you're in a COVID-19 environment, having a real good handle on our finances is critical. And Ian played a big role in that. And he moved our finance area forward for us over this last year. In this past year, under Ian's leadership, we implemented a number of initiatives to help us improve the quality and the transparency of our financial information to our membership. Ian's role too, he has one of the worst jobs we've got around the board too, is he's got the difficult job to actually follow up with those who owe GMBA money, particularly families, et cetera, who owe GMBA money. And he's the one who's on the phone calling families, to be essentially that bill collector. A difficult role, one that he stepped up and did on behalf of all of us, to make sure that we were whole at the end of the day. And I personally appreciate Ian, your willingness to listen. You hear all sides. Ian's a great person around the board table. He often waits to the very end of a conversation to put his input in, right? Because he likes to listen, he likes to hear the thoughts. And I'm going to miss your thoughtful approach to a director. We've grown a lot because of your leadership, Ian, and a big thank you for that. Next up, Stephanie. Steph's been around supported the GMBA in so many different ways, a big part of our board for a number of years. And her most recent role, which I think most know about Steph, is our VP of Rep. And Steph has done an impeccable job, absolutely, of turning our Rep program, in my opinion, the most organized Rep system we've got in ICBA, but bar none, hands down, because of Steph's leadership. Steph's also played a huge role in GMBA's response to COVID-19. Steph's got, if you know Steph's got a healthcare background, it was vital to us moving forward in that environment. Steph took all those new protocols last year, this year, all the initiatives that had to come out of COVID, all of our COVID plans, and made them work for Guelph Minor Baseball. If you know Steph, she's a former player from GMBA, multi-time GMBA award winner for her work as a volunteer within this organization, and whose family's been heavily involved with GMBA throughout the years. So on behalf of the board and all of us, Steph, thank you for all your hard work. We're going to miss having you around the board table. Heather Mcpherson. Heather can't be with us tonight because she's somewhere warm. Good on Heather. It's probably the most smart, best decision of all of us here tonight, probably, right? But she's a champion of our families around that board table. And if you know Heather, if you want to find Heather, you can often just see her driving around Diamonds through the summer, dropping somebody off, one of her kids off, picking somebody up, going to umpiring, going to a game. That's where you'll find Heather. Heather most recently was our senior House League commissioner, member of our House League committee. And Heather said to me that although she's leaving the board, she's still involved. She still wants to help. We're not going to get rid of her. And I think Heather knows this too. Just because you're leaving the board doesn't mean you're leaving our volunteer team. And so we are totally going to take Heather up on that. And so big thank you to Heather for all your hard work and all your support and all your efforts on behalf of our families. And then lastly, Rob Robinson. Hey, Rob, over the last few years, Rob's worked in a number of different areas for GMBA. He chairs our player and coach development committee. He's an absolute go-to with respect to our rep committee and our coach selection committees. This year, Rob also chaired our grievance committee. He's an important voice and leader around our board table, particularly when we have difficult items to discuss, things that we don't all agree with. Development within GMBA has grown significantly over Rob's time here, and particularly with respect to our relationships with our training partners across the city. Rob's leadership has been instrumental to grow that relationship. And I think what I'm personally going to miss is sort of Rob's professional analytical way of, coming up with analyzing our situations, coming up with a sustainable solution to what we're doing. I think it's his engineer background, right? And we're totally going to miss that. So, hey, Rob, big thank you to you as well for all you've done for GMBA. I'll leave you with this, and then we'll hop off and move on to something else here. We've done a ton this year, 500 plus volunteers, right? And I think sometimes it felt like we were running uphill this year. I know it totally did. I just want to end by saying I'm thankful to all of you on this call, all of our volunteers, all of our families, all of our parents, all of our players, all of our volunteers, all of our training partners. Everybody comes together to make baseball happen in Guelph, And as we look to the end of this year and next season, there's a few things I wanted to share, with our membership here. The first thing is we need more help. Absolutely need more help. We did a ton this year. We saw that from that list. A lot was done this year, more than just getting kids on the baseball field. But to be frank with you, we burnt out some of our volunteers. We need more help. We need more people. And if you can help in other ways, please reach out to our board. We need you. There's more that we can do, but beyond more we can do, we need help just to do the stuff that we currently do. So if you've got friends, family who are doers who want to help, please reach out to us. We need more people to step up and support support baseball within our city. Over the last 2 years, in large part, we think because of COVID-19, we've lost about 200 players playing baseball in Guelph. The Jays are really popular right now. We know when the Blue Jays are hot, our registrations tend to go up. We have a real opportunity with the Blue Jays being a really great product right now. We need to capitalize on that. So that's something we got to look at as we look to grow our membership and grow the number of kids playing baseball in Guelph over the next couple of years. And I wanted to also say that times are changing. And I think it's, as we look ahead, it's important for GMBA to be looking at this direction, moving in this direction as well. And what's changing is families are looking for more. They're looking for different types of programming. Our House League committee has been talking about alternative models for our House League program. We got to keep that work moving forward and find a way to get that in place for next year. Families are talking to us. They want programs with structure. They want good competition. And to be frank, if we can't offer it here in Guelph, they'll go elsewhere, because there are other opportunities for your baseball dollar, for your youth baseball dollar, that are not far from us here in Guelph. And so we need to keep that in mind as we put our plans in place and as we move our organization, forward over the next couple of years. Now, the last point I'll say is just this: is we need to continue to invest in our coach and player development. It's a critical piece for us, keeping baseball players playing ball in Guelph long term. If you love this game, you have a big chance. And one of the ways you find to love this game is you can play the game. Really, you can play the game. You're going to love this game, and you're going to stay in this game for a long time. And that's got to be our goal as volunteers who love baseball here and promote baseball within the city of Guelph. We've got to keep that focus for us. So here's it. Here's the end of my piece here. And to me, this pretty much sums up my winter as well. People ask me what I do all winter, and when there's no baseball, and I tell them I stare out the window and wait for spring. Roger Hornsby, myself, I'm at a hockey rink often too, but other than that, I'm waiting for baseball to start up in the spring again. And so, hey, congrats on a really great 2021, everyone. Thank you for all your hard work, commitment, your leadership. The parents in this meeting here, thank you for all that driving you do to get your kids to and from a baseball game, to and from a baseball practice, to and from a training event, right? Close to 1,000 young baseball players are better for all of our efforts, all of us. So again, on behalf of all of us at GMBA, and just a real sincere thank you to all of you for what you've done to make this a really, really memorable season. Okay. So with that, I'll stop talking. I'm going to flip it over to Nato now, who's going to walk us through some of the financial aspects of our meeting here tonight. So over to you, Donato.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Eric, I'm going to take over the screen if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, everyone can see my screen here? Okay, so I'll take the next few minutes to go over our audited financial statements. This year we had a full audit, and in order to do the full audit, we needed 2020 opening and closing balances to be verified, and then we needed 2019 as well. So we engaged in a notice to reader for 2019, 2020. And that gave us good opening balance numbers to do, or not us, but the auditors to do their 2021 audit. So 2021, we did do a full audit. This is the audit package here. It includes the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, the revenue and expenditures or the income statement, statement of changes in net assets, statement of cash flows, and then the notes. So the audit report, I won't go through the entire thing, but the most important thing that we were striving to achieve was this section in here, to get an opinion from them that our statements were correct. So this section right here, so accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material aspects the financial position of the organization as of August 31st, 2021, and the results and so forth. However, they did have a basis for a qualified opinion, and what that means is there's an area where they couldn't provide reasonableness as to the numbers on our statement. And that area was, it's in this section here, under prepaids, which basically was our inventory. And the issue there was because we didn't do a full inventory count at August 31st, they can provide a reasonable opinion on our numbers. So there could be some misstatement. Basically, that's what it's saying. But they were happy in the sense that we did a count at the beginning of the year. We explained to them what we took out of inventory, what we put in inventory, and they were okay with that. But one of the recommendations they had was to do a count every August 31st or somewhere in that area. And then it goes into some other matters, emphasis of matters. Basically, it refers to a note 8, which is a reference to some certain accounting standards that for nonprofit organizations that GMBA adopted this year. And then it goes into the responsibilities of management or the board. And the big part here is the board's or the organization's ability to continue as a going concern. And I'll tell you, we had a lot of meetings over the last 2 years because of COVID to ensure that Guelph Minor Baseball did exist the next year and the following year. Many meetings to discuss cash flow, where expenses were headed, registration, and that sort of stuff. So we did do a lot of that over the last 2 years. And then it gets into the responsibility of the auditors. So basically what they're responsible for. I won't go through all this. It's all kind of standard stuff. And so we get into the statement of financial position or the balance sheet. So you can see here, cash looks like it was a lot more than last year. Last year, we had 12,000 in cash and 53,000 in the GIC. In November of this past year, we cashed out the GIC thinking that we would have required it for cash flow purposes. We were close, but we didn't really need it, which was a good thing. So our ending balance for this year was 149,000 in cash, and there is discussions about whether that 53,000 or some amount should be put back into the GIC. Our accounts receivable was less than last year. Of that 15,000 that was outstanding at August 31st, all but 800 of it has been collected, so there's no risk of non-collection there. Prepaids were about $25,000 less than the year before. A lot of that has to do with last year. We had equipment and uniforms in the prepaid account because we bought a lot of the uniforms and equipment, but then with House League being canceled, we put on the books as a prepaid. We get into the accounts payable. A little higher than last year, largely due to a few invoices in the NAP for uniforms and equipment. Deferred revenue, about 5K higher than last year, which means more revenue came in at the end of this year, which was related to next year. So that revenue is going to flip into the income statement next year. So that puts our net assets at 136, and then we do have that equipment fund that we've had on our books for the last few years. This is a restricted asset, and in order to use it, it would require board approval. So it's not just free cash that can be used for anything. So any questions on the balance sheet? Okay, we'll move into the income statement. So you can see revenue was up approximately 92,000, largely due to last year not having House League. The other income was about $10,000 lower. This year we had less clinics versus last year. Last year we did a lot more clinics because we didn't have House League. Sponsorship was about 1.4K lower than last year. We just had fewer sponsors and donations. The lottery and fundraising, the 892 is for the Little Caesars fundraiser that the association did this year. The 2,500 last year was due to the Guelph Storm 50-50 event that we had. So that puts our revenue at 280,000 for this year compared to 102 last year. So team expenses, obviously a lot higher. We had higher diamonds, higher umpire costs because we had a lot more games this year. Occupancy cost, last year we had rent relief for the months of April to September, which causes us to only have 27K in occupancy cost. Obviously a little bit higher this year because we paid our rent for 11 months. We only had relief for 1 month. Umpires, again, higher, more games this year for the House League program. Other costs, approximately 3% higher. This was largely due to having obviously more players registered. We had higher online registration costs this year. Office expenses, significantly lower. That had to do with canceling the phone, which is approximately $2,000. We bought out the copier, which saved us another $1,500. Lower website costs of approximately $600. Last year we had bought a promotional sign for $600, and then we also canceled the debit and credit machine. Now it doesn't sound like a big deal, but the ongoing monthly costs just weren't worth it because we weren't using it. So that saved us approximately $5,000 in office cost. The legal fees, the $2,000 is related to the notice for reader that the auditors were doing they did this year for last year. And this year's audit cost $5,000. And then we had a small portion in bad debt and tournament and special events. So that puts our total expenditures at $240,000 with a net profit of $38,000 for this year. Any questions around any of these numbers? Again, the audit's more geared towards comparisons from last year to this year. You can see here it's noted that it's unaudited, but they did a notice to reader, an evaluation on it. I'll briefly talk about our budget, what we budgeted and where we came in, just to keep things transparent, to let the membership know, what did we budget and where we came in at and what the variances were. But I'll continue to go through this report first. Okay, so statement changes in net assets. Again, probably if for any financial person out there, this may be of interest. For most people, not so much. It just shows our net assets at the end of the year, which we just looked at on the balance sheet. A statement of cash flow, just how our cash changed over the course of the year. There's $149,000 that I showed on the balance sheet. So this section here talks about some of the significant accounting policies for nonprofit organizations. Again, a lot of financial stuff that doesn't really impact how we came up with a $30,000 profit, just how things are classified on the balance sheet and on the income statement. Okay, then some of the notes to the financial statements. First one talks about financial instruments. We didn't really have any. We didn't have any types of investments. We did have the term deposit here of $53,000 last year, which was cashed out this past November. And all these notes are referred to back in the income statement and the balance sheet. This just gives more explanation as to what they referred to. So the deferred revenue, like I said, consists of registration fees received for next year, tryouts and games played in September. So again, that's going to be part of the registration revenue next year. We had the rent reduction. You can see last year was significantly higher than this past year. And according to our lease, we've got 3 more years on our lease, and here's what our exposure is on the lease for the office. Again, then it talks about credit risk, liquidity risks, and then some COVID implications, just some standard verbiage for as part of the audit report. Any questions? So like I mentioned, I'll quickly mention how we did compare to our budget. We did budget to make $25,000. That was basically to make up what we lost the year before. The year before, we lost just a little bit less than that. So we wanted to at least make that up. As you can see, we were at $38,000, so that's a difference of approximately $14,000. We did have less revenue than our budget, approximately $75,000 less in revenue, but then we also had less equipment of approximately $28,000, lower umpire fees or lower umpire costs, less clinics. We didn't run the peak clinic for House League, and that was largely due to diamond availability and less players. We also had again.
Donato, not to interrupt.
Yeah.
Are you sharing on an alternate screen?
No, I'm just referring to some notes.
Okay.
I didn't. There's
Perfect.
nothing. Yeah.
Thank you.
The online registration fees were about $5,000 less than what we budgeted, because obviously we budgeted for more players. Police checks, we budgeted $6,000 this past year, but this year the city decided to fund it for one more year, so we were off the hook for that $6,000. And then our occupancy costs were also less by approximately $2,000. So those savings there kind of makes up that $13,000 variance between our net income for this year relative to what our budget was. Any questions, comments, concerns?
So I think we'll have a motion, Donato, to accept the financial statements.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind, Jeff.
Not all, Dan, not all. Please go ahead.
Hi, Donato. Thanks for that. Can you just walk me through a little bit slower through the note that the GMBA cashed out in 2020 to cover the 53,000, and then how has the GMBA recouped that and started first of all, answer the first question: did we end up needing it? Did we end up using it for cash flow reasons? And if we didn't, how is that accounted for in this year's financial statement, and is it being reinvested?
Yeah, so we didn't end up needing it. We had cashed it out, and it went to our bank account. So I'll scroll back up to our. So the decision was made because, like I said, we did meet numerous times prior to cashing it out. We actually met early spring and then the summer, and then looked at our cash flow and said, okay, we may need it around this time. So after the last cash flow projection in September, October, we said, okay, let's cash it out in November. We didn't end up needing it. So right now it's sitting in this $149,000. And sorry.
And Dan, if I could just add to that quickly, I think as the new board comes forward, Dan, one of the motions will be to reinvest. As we look at cash flow for this upcoming year, but will be to reinvest all or a portion of that 53,000. But that'll be the next board's decision. But that's I expect that direction to happen as we move into the next fiscal year.
Okay, great, thanks. Last question, is $100,000 about what the GMBA usually hangs on to in terms of cash flow?
Well, you could see last year was 12. Previous years was obviously a little bit more than 12. I think 100,000 in the bank personally is probably too much. But because we had the luxury of having the 53,000 in a GIC, which is one phone call away and it's in our bank account the next day. So it's very liquid. It's not tied in, and that was one of the reasons why I was put into a GIC. On the other slide here, it shows the interest rate was very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the risk was also very, very low. So
Yeah.
so yeah, 100,000 I think is probably too much, but again, that's up to the board to decide, how much to keep in there, because this 50,000 or 53,000 is very liquid. It can be cashed out at any time.
Thanks very much. That's great.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments for Donato? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to call for a motion to accept the financial report as presented. And so will somebody move that for us, please? Kirk, awesome. Thanks, Kirk. And then a seconder, Rob. Awesome, great. We'll get get this up on screen. And Donato, do you mind stop sharing? Do you mind?
Yep, sorry.
That's okay. And so I'll drop into the chat the poll for this motion, and we can vote on it. So you should see it there now. Sydney, got your note? No trouble at all. Glad you joined. We've got 18 votes so far. See a few more here to get us so over. Got 40 of us on the call right now, plus a couple people in together.
Hey Jeff, while we're waiting, I just wanted, I see there's a lot of coaches on the call. I want to thank them for getting the invoices paid on time. That was a big part of the audit where the auditors are concerned of teams closing accounts and possibly not paying their bills. So it was great to see, or great for me to be able to tell the auditors, hey, there's only $800 left, and I think that's from Kitchener Minor Baseball that they owe us for some umpires and diamonds. But so that's great. Hopefully OJ gets that same cooperation. He'll be taking over for me at the end of this year. So give OJ the continued support. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Donato. Okay, I'm going to share the results here, and we'll see that motion is carried with 25 responses, 24 yeses, and one individual abstained. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Donato. Eric, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you for a second. I think you want to move a motion around the auditors.
I'm hoping everybody can see my screen about the auditors right now. One of the things we went through with Ian and Donato's leadership and Jill as part of the finance committee was a detailed review of where we were, realizing that we did think that an audit was needed this year, both because it's part of our duty to the members to ensure that we can, to the best of our ability, see that the funds are being handled properly. One of the big things we wanted to do as part of this is not just elect an auditor to go through this one-time exercise of an audit, but look at having one moving forward that we could have that relationship with. We interviewed a lot of different firms, actually ended up settling on Curtis Villar, who's the one who performed the audit that Donato just walked us through, as well as our notice to reader for 2019 and 2020. That was really a review of our 2 prior years to make sure that the numbers at the starting of this year, where the audit was performed, were in alignment with what was expected and adjustments were made as needed. The big thing we want to be sure is for the next board moving forward that we have that guidance, that we are comfortable with this firm. Price point wise, they really came out ahead in terms of relationships with other sports, other nonprofits within Guelph, being a local firm, a lot of wins in that column there as well. And really the experience itself went fairly smoothly. what we would really like is that membership's approval. So you guys on the call, your approval to actually keep going with this firm moving forward and more solidifying that relationship. But I guess with that, I'd like to put a motion forward to appoint the accounting firm of Curtis Villar LLP as our auditors for GMBA. And then,
Awesome. Thanks,
The
Eric.
question?
Yeah, we're just gonna get a seconder, Kevin, and I'll come to your question after that, okay? Yeah, will somebody second that motion? OJ, you good to second that? Yeah, perfect, okay. All right, go ahead, Kevin.
So this motion is to stick with this firm moving forward, but it's not to audit every year, or is it when we audit, we will use them?
So right now that decision hasn't really been made. When discussing with the auditing firm, one thing they suggested is an audit every other year and potentially a notice to reader in between. So they kind of do a review of the in-between years. But really the way it would come down is to our actual finance committee and to the board to kind of say, you know what, is this a year where we want to tackle it? I think at a minimum, we would want to be focusing every other year, but potentially every single year might be the right approach. Really, we want to more solidify that relationship right now and then kind of have that pathway for next year's finance committee to be able to move forward and put forward the recommendation as to which approach to take.
Okay, so we're approving this audit company moving forward, and the board will decide on frequency and that.
Correct.
Okay.
Any
Just,
other questions?
I may add, Eric,
Question.
it will make things easier, even if it is a notice to reader, because like I said, the first half or more than half of the time they spent, getting 18, 19 or 19 and 20 where they needed to be. So even if it's a notice to reader, which is significantly less in cost, it makes the audit the following year pretty straightforward. So
one of the other benefits to having an audit, and it was kind of came through the finance committee and I think the fundraising one as well, is there are some government grants we can look to apply for, but typically one of the first requirements are that you have audited statements from your prior year. This helps us satisfy that it's something that we can actually be looking at for next year and putting ourselves in a position where we could be reaching out for money that's out there is something we would like to be able to continue with as well.
Lori, do you have a question? Oh, you're on mute right now.
There, hit the button too many times. I was wondering why you would not have one annually. Now that you've set up the relationship, typically an audit is every year because they understand your business, they know what to expect, and it gets easier every year. You take a year off, you're almost reestablishing that continuity. So I don't know why you would skip, but if there's good reason.
Well, and I don't think any of us are advocating that we would skip. I think the only thing we're saying right now is it hasn't been decided. It'll really be the board that we elected kind of the end of this call to start firming up that decision. I would definitely say I agree with you, Lori. I think annually makes the most sense, and financially, I think the comfort level that we get from it for the price point is definitely worth it as well. Like there's a lot of value to be returned. So I would definitely echo your statements. It was just not a decision that we were positioned to make before the AGM.
Okay, great, thanks.
Great questions. Any other questions? Okay, so we've got a motion, we've got it seconded, and I'll drop in the chat the link so we can vote on this motion. You see that coming up now. All right, 17 votes so far. Just need a few more here.
Jeff, can we pause for a second? The way the wording of that motion is written, I have some concerns with. It's different than what was presented here to the board, or sorry, not to the board, to the membership. On the form, it's listed as, I'm just pulling it up. As a GMBA member, I accept the appointment of GMBA auditors for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as moved. Do we want to include the name of the auditors in that motion?
Yeah, I mean, it's as it was moved, but certainly it's what, sure, in the motion itself, that we, yeah, sure. If Eric wants to update the motion, we could do that, sure.
It's a friendly amendment, right? Like it can get added onto it, but I think it should be included.
It doesn't hurt, yeah.
Well, I definitely say I think the motion is what's boxed in here. This is what we would want to vote on.
Right, but that's not the motion that's listed on the form that we're voting on. That's my concern.
Okay.
But keep it the same, but we can just understand that the motion is what's in the box and not what's on the form.
Yeah, the minutes reflect that, Eric. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. So we're at 20 responses. We need a couple more here just to get this over the top. Oh, actually, there we go. Perfect. And here's our auditor's motion with 22 votes. Okay, one last piece of business here on the finance side. I'm going to turn, as Donato mentioned, this is his last duty as treasurer for GMBA, and I'm going to ask Ian Dirk to say a few words about Donato and provide a big thank you on behalf of GMBA. So Ian, over to you, man.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Donato, we, as a board and personally, we just wanted to thank you. You've been fantastic. I don't know the exact number of years you've been our treasurer, but I think it's 5 or 6 years. Maybe you can, is it 5 or 6 or more?
4.
4, okay.
It seems like 5 or 6.
All right, well, I'm going to blame Jeff on that. He told me 5 or 6. But we want to say thank you. You've been fantastic. Your guidance and leadership over the last 4 years have been fantastic. I've learned a lot from you this year, and my 1 year being VP Finance. So I want to thank you personally. And you're going to be missed for sure. And OJ, you got big shoes to fill, as you know. But I know the new board, you're going to be fantastic as well. And it was really nice that you guys worked together on this final audit. So thank you, Donato. And let's all give Donato our appreciation. Give him a thumbs up, maybe, or a clap or something. Give him something.
Thanks, Ian. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Donato. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say on a personal note, thank you to everyone on the finance committee, Eric, Jill, and Donato. It's been really nice working with you this year. I learned a lot myself. I'm departing from the board, but it's been a really great 3 years for me, learning experience. Like Jeff said, I like to listen. I like to listen to all sides and then sort of voice my concerns or opinion at the end. But I've learned a lot, and I just want to say thank you to the board. And I think the new board's gonna be fantastic. It's a great association, and it's really, really nice to see the progress that we've made over the last 3 years, for sure. Finally, I just want to say thank you, Jeff. Jeff, you've been a fantastic president. Really, I really mean that. You took over at one of the hardest times, like COVID. Man, we've gone through so much, and you showed extreme patience and leadership through this time. And I just want to say personally, on behalf of the board, thank you for that. That's it.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And thank you, Donato, as well. I echo Ian's comments fully. Well done, man. The level of professionalism you bring to our finances is unmatched, and you made a real difference here. Thanks again, Donato. Okay, enough business stuff. Let's have a little bit. Let's. Like, lots of people are here to actually hear for some of the better stuff that while we run our AGM, and we actually put it at the very end on purpose because we got to get this other stuff done. So thank you for being patient with us to get through all the business stuff. I'm going to turn it over to Steph and Adam to walk through. I think we're going player awards first. remind me if I'm, we changed this today. Remind me, going to player awards, coach, team, scholarships, and then volunteer at the end, right? Yeah. So Steph, Adam, I can turn over to you two to run us through the first couple of slides. Is that cool? Yeah. And oh, by the way, I should have said this when I talked about Steph. She has the best PowerPoint slides. She has the absolute best PowerPoint slides, bar none, across the organization. So we're totally gonna miss that too. Okay, Steph, Adam, over to you two.
All right. So welcome everybody to the portion of the night. So just as Jeff mentioned earlier, we did have about 941 players this year, 19 rep teams, 5 select, about 54 house league. We did bring home 6 regular season ICBA pennants, 5 ICBA championships, and we had countless coaches and volunteers, all who helped make the achievements of this year. Tonight, we can only unfortunately recognize some of those many individuals. So Adam, I will turn it over to you to start with the house league awards.
It's an easy one because we're going to pass some of these off as well. So the first House League award that we're presenting is, I hope it is at least, the 15U Player of the Year. And our 15U Player of the Year award winner is Owen McMeekin from the House League division. So yeah, thank you. Congratulations, Owen. Worked really hard this year and really saw some development from him, as well as he was playing. Just the pure leadership of this young man was amazing. From coaches to conveners, it was clear throughout the entire association. So Owen, you had a great season, and congratulations on being the 15U House League Player of the Year. I'm going to turn it to Kevin's going to speak a little bit about the 19U player.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I had the luxury and the pleasure to convene the 19U division this year and coach a team. Although we didn't win the championship, we had good coaches and it was a fantastic year. So I've got some feedback from this player's coach, Scott Charlton, and I'll just read it here. Nolan Oates never missed a game throughout the 2021 season. He arrived early to each game and played every day with a positive attitude towards his teammates and opposing players. Nolan was injured during the playoffs while catching as a result of a player sliding into his leg while attempting to score. He refused to come out of the game and completed one more inning behind the plate. One of his teammates described him after the incident as a fierce behind the plate catcher. Nolan continued to play through the playoffs with the injury, including catching 4 innings the next day in 30-degree heat. He unfortunately re-aggravated his injury in the final inning of the final game while playing center field, but wanted to stay in and finish out the game and the season. Nolan was a model of perseverance and consistency for his team throughout 2021. He was a great teammate, always cheering on players no matter the score or the results. He was respectful to umpires and opposing teams and a pleasure to coach. Nolan demonstrated all the characteristics that GMBA attempts to instill in its players, and for that reason is our choice for the U19 Player of the Year.
All right, I guess it comes back to me now for the rep awards. So our first rep award is for the Junior Player of the Year. This year's recipient is Greg Franklin. Described as a pleasure to coach, a team leader, the one and only leadoff hitter, and a base stealing machine, Greg's speed, athleticism, and baseball IQ allow him to play a stellar outfield. If Greg is absent, the whole team feels the impact. The other players on the team all gravitate towards him and look to him as a leader. This even extends beyond the team themselves, as Greg can often be found chatting with other players around the league. Greg is always ensuring everyone is having fun. We've even been told that he's a bit of a prankster with the coaching staff at times, but Coach Mark insists that Greg has still not gotten him yet. As if Greg wasn't busy enough with all the games and practices in this condensed season, Greg took on other roles within both our baseball community and the community at large. Greg stepped up to help fulfill our need for umpires this season, something that we all know is in scarce supply. Despite this, Greg must not have been busy enough, as he tapped into his inner entrepreneur and operated his own business, Grunt Work by Greg, helping his neighbors with odd jobs around their houses. All in all, Greg is not only an exceptional player, but is the embodiment of our motto at GMBA, good sports today, great citizens tomorrow, and the reason why he is this year's 2021 GMBA Junior Player of the Year. And I believe Greg is on the call tonight. The next award goes to the Senior Player of the Year. This year's recipient is Tyler Womboldt. Tyler has been the ultimate utility player for the 14U Tier 2 team in the 2021 season. Tyler can be trusted to play anywhere on the infield, including catching and pitching, although his primary position was third base. He would frequently catch base runners by surprise at first and third by throwing behind them. Tyler is described as a coach's dream. He's willing to do whatever is asked of him without question. Tyler would move into any defensive position and play it like it was his everyday spot. Tyler has a very laid-back attitude and will not get frazzled even in the toughest of situations. He cares deeply about the game and about his team, and has a level temperament that serves him well as a ball player. Coaches could learn as a pitcher in the bottom of the seventh with nobody out, bases loaded, and a one-run lead. Tyler would approach the situation like any other, get to business, and not show any signs of nerves. Although he started with a little slow with the bat, Tyler has boasted an impressive .538 batting average in the last 2 weeks of the season. Tyler was a team leader in runs scored as well as RBIs. His offense was a big part of the success of the team. Tyler's a leader both on and off the field. He has the ear and respect of his teammates and can be counted on to point them in the right direction. From the dugout, the coaches would frequently hear Tyler sending a word of encouragement to a struggling pitcher or picking up a teammate that had made an error. He's a reliable teammate on and off the field. He sets a good example and is an excellent role model for other players. It is clear that Tyler plays baseball for the love of the game. He shows maturity beyond his age, having found the proper balance between being a good sport and wanting to win baseball games. Congratulations, Tyler. Next is the Junior Pitcher of the Year. This year it's been goes to Jacob Hebert. Jacob dominated on the mound this year. He pitched 28.1 innings, struck out 50 batters. Jacob was truly the team's #1 pitcher and often got the tough pitching assignments. In the ICBA playoffs against the other undefeated team, Jacob pitched 6.2 innings, struck out 13, walked only 1, and gave up a mere 2 hits. In that game, Jacob had a perfect game going into the 6th inning. Jacob works incredibly hard and is very deserving of this award. Congratulations, Jacob. The silent claps are everything. The Senior Pitcher of the Year goes to Matthew Cutton. Matthew is the best pitcher in the entire ICBA loop, 18U loop this year. He appeared in 8 out of the team's 20 games, had an ERA of 1.9 with 52 strikeouts and only 5 walks. Matthew had a 4-1 win-loss record in the 8 game appearances. It was hard to gauge wins and losses early on because based on the COVID shutdown, the team started the year on established strict pitch counts. Starters very rarely got a decision in 9-inning games. Once the pitchers were stretched out, Matt was very dominant. His strikeout to walk ratio was amazing, and his walk and hits per inning pitched was only 1.098. As a senior, Matthew's dedication to pitching was an example to the younger players. From his pregame warm-up routines to cool down and even his off-day rehab, he stuck with it and was able to go again on his next scheduled start. Matthew was also a leader on defense, sharing information with the other pitchers and being a voice on the field when the others were struggling. Team success is not always about individual statistics, but how a player makes others around him better. Matthew is a perfect example of this. As he gave it his all on the mound, the defense and batting elevated. Hitting the pitch marks and targets allow the defense to play more strategically, like shifting. Players want to make the plays for someone like him. They rally the bats around a good pitching performance and always feel like they're in a game, knowing their pitcher is keeping the score low. Matthew was a presence on the mound and very instrumental with our team's success. Congratulations, Matthew. Next is our Junior Coach of the Year. This year it goes to Jared Patterson. So they say a good coach will make players see what they can be and not what they are. This is precisely what Jared did this past season with his 12U Tier 2 team. Jared started off the season with a task of taking players from various teams, ranging from Tier 1 right through House League, and turning them into a single unified team with a common vision, even when some of them hadn't touched a baseball in nearly 2 years. While their win-loss record may not be the best in the league, they make up for it with their hard work and character development. Jared led through example an exceptional group of coaches and players this season. On top of this, he also volunteered to act as one of our dedicated select coach mentors. His genuine passion for baseball is evident in his thoroughly prepared practices, communication with the team, proactiveness to secure practice times with our indoor training partners, and willingness to give back to GMBA. His administrative skills were exceptional. He never had to be asked twice to do anything. His encouragement and correction during practices and games is stellar, encouraging kids to be the best they can and never scolding. His commitment to develop all his players to their fullest potential is obvious and appreciated. While the Blue Jays may have had their coveted home run jacket, Jared had the ultimate MVP robe and a game wrestling belt, encouraging each player to give it their all while on the diamond. At the same time, Jared taught his players the importance of giving back to the community, and under his leadership, the team collected over 400 pounds of food for the Guelph Food Bank. For these reasons and more, Jared was selected as the 2021 GMBA Junior Coach of the Year. Next up is our Coach of the Year, Dave Gioschi. It's an award that's long overdue. The journey for Dave started a year and a half ago when life as we knew it ground to a halt, and we were forced to deal with COVID. Suddenly, people's lives and circumstances were turned upside down, and we found ourselves short a coach and many players down, forcing us to combine two teams. After thinking we had solved the problem with a new coach and a merged team, we had to move to Plan C. When that coach also quit, and suddenly we had 16 players wanting to play. Dave stepped up then and has continued to rebuild the program since that time. His teaching job doesn't end when the school bell rings at 3 p.m. It just continues on the ball field. As an avid educator, Dave has been instrumental in teaching and honing the players' skills while encouraging them to work together as a team. Dave has also been successful in bringing on some non-parent coaches whose knowledge only further complements the learning environment. He's a strong communicator, thoroughly organized, constantly taking notes on things to work on during the games, following up with players about them after the game, and bringing that to practice. Dave has good knowledge of baseball and works to improve his knowledge by finding new drills and training ideas online, asking questions of our rep and technical committees, along with our more experienced coaches when needed. Dave took the ever-changing policies and practices around COVID in stride. He even went as far as to design and organize a face buff, which he made available program-wide to encourage safe practices. His attention to player safety is bar none. Under Dave's leadership, we have seen this program get restored and couldn't be prouder of where they are today. Congratulations, Dave. And finally, we have the Team of the Year. So this year, we selected the 9U Tier 2 team as the Team of the Year. So teamwork is everything in baseball. The success of a team is not measured by individual talents, but rather how well those individuals work together towards their common goal. This could not be more true of our 9U Tier 2 team. From the coaching staff led by Dave Beliveau to the 12 players to the immeasurable fan base, every single person played a role in achieving their goal of winning the ICBA championship. Starting with Dave himself, he provided a strong leadership role to guide the team. Organized, knowledgeable, passionate, dedicated, and good communicator were the words most commonly used to describe Dave. More importantly, though, Dave understood the importance of having the right people around him and allowing others to speak, share their opinions, and create a more enjoyable learning environment for the players. Those people were his assistant coaches, Frankie, Nate, Dave, Ryan, and Adam. Each of those coaches were well respected by the parents and players and elevated the player experience through the sharing of their knowledge and experiences. This coaching staff would never say no to lending a hand, whether that was helping a player with a little extra practice, assisting with a fellow coach's tryouts, or helping with diamond preparations for their playoffs. Always leading with a calm, professional demeanor, this coaching staff was an excellent group of role models for this young team. Next, the players themselves. Winning a mere 2 games last season, the team dominated the loop this year with an impressive 16-0 record. It was a fitting reflection of the hard work they put in during their practices. Anyone who watched them this year was in awe of the transformation. It was not uncommon to see double plays, diving catches, and tons of slides. Despite their dominance of the competitions, games were always respectful and players demonstrated the utmost sportsmanship, a common comment heard during the ICBA playoffs. Finally, the fan base, or as we have come to know it, a larger baseball family. A truly supportive group who did whatever was needed, from scorekeeping and keeping the energy up with music to just cheering on the players. From top to bottom, it was nothing but a positive experience and environment that we're proud to have as part of Guelph Minor Baseball. Congratulations to Dave and the 9U Tier 2 team. And now I turn it over to OJ.
Thanks, Steph. I appreciate it. So I have the honor and privilege tonight of presenting on behalf of this year's selection committee, the 2021 GMBA Kiwanis Scholarship Awards. Like Jeff was saying at the beginning, this is the fun stuff that we get to do. And I was reflecting a bit as I was writing my notes tonight, and this really is an example of how the work that we do as an association and what you guys do as a membership extends so much farther than just the season. So here we are helping a few very successful applicants get a couple bucks in their pocket and go and continue to make a difference in the world. So briefly, for those of you that don't know me, my name is OJ Mcdonald. I am taking over for Donato this year, filling those boots as treasurer. And I also had the pleasure of being a U11 convener and head coach across a few divisions. This year's awards were graciously donated to us by the Kiwanis Club of Guelph. And for those of you that don't know them, they're a local charitable organization that raises quite a bit of money and gives back to various associations. Coming out of COVID, this is a very difficult time as a fundraising committee to pursue scholarships and dollars to help drive the organization forward. And thanks to the Kiwanis Club, we were able to secure 2 $500 scholarships this year. Typically, I think they're in and around $1,000 based on what I have been told. But based on the uncertainty of the seasons and the teams and everything, Kiwanis stepped up and really helped us out this year. So I don't think Janice is with us, but we have made sure that they do know how much we support them. So this year's awards, as we put out on the website, are in honor of 2 very special people to the Guelph Minor Baseball Association. First off is the Cheryl Mochuk Memorial Scholarship. And that's, as we know, Steph's late mom. And she was somebody who served on served the GMBA Association for many years as an umpire assigner, rep chair, and member of the board. I'm going to leave it there because Steph will take a few moments to say some words and present that award. And then the second one, we have the Jokuto Memorial Scholarship, which again is named in the honor of the late Jokuto. Again, an ardent supporter of GMBA. He was an equipment manager for a while, served on the executive, longtime coach. But I'm going to pause there because we do have his son here tonight to say a few words and help present that scholarship award as well. Before we get to that, I just want to take a minute and thank this year's 2021 selection committee. Jill Gillies, our chair of fundraising and sponsorship, Stephanie Mochuk, who we just heard from, our vice president of rep, our secretary, Eric Tremblay, and myself. We definitely had 7 strong applicants that came forward, and it was difficult for us to actually pick 2 winners. To do that, we took an opportunity to also reach out to the coaches, do a little bit of fact digging to try and glean some more information that may have been difficult to translate into an application. This year we received 7 applications in total. I just want to quickly highlight Michael McCallop, Kyle Manson, Scott McClellan, Matthew Jansen, Josh Reedy, Oscar Kazores, and Kepler Pyle, forgive the pronunciations. They did a great job in their applications. And like I said, they really showed strong commitment to the criteria that we were looking for with respect to the selection process. And really what that is graduating players who exemplified a strong academic achievement level, a strong athletic performance, have a true passion for baseball. And what I love more than anything is that willingness to get back to the community and the youth underneath them, support the association. So with that said, tonight we have 2 very special people, as I mentioned, that will be presenting our awards to the 2 winners, Mike Kuto, Joe's son, and Steph. And at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mike to present the award in his late father's name.
Thank you. I'm Mike Kuto, as OJ said. I'm Joe Kuto's son. My dad was an active member of Guelph Minor Baseball for many years. His passion was coaching, as he coached me, my brother, and continued coaching many years after. He would be honored to have a scholarship in his name to help shape someone's future. So I'd like to thank Guelph Minor Baseball, and I would like to congratulate Scott McLennan on receiving this award. Scott played on the under 18 T2 team and continued and currently is going to Mcmaster to pursue a math and stats degree, and he hopes to return to Guelph Minor Baseball in a more of a coaching capacity to further shape youth ball players in the future, as my dad did in his career.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot.
That was, I think it goes to speak to the commitment that your family's made to support GMBA over the years. And, way to go, Scott. Congrats. Now I'll turn it over to Steph and she can present the second award.
All right. So as OJ said, my late mom, Cheryl Mochuk, served for many years in Guelph Minor baseball. She held just about every role you can think of. She was a coach, convener, board member, umpire, signer. She did a stint as house league chair as well as rep chair. Just gave back tirelessly to the baseball community. So this year's recipient of the Cheryl Mochuk Scholarship is Matthew Jansen. Matthew new team this past season, and he's first year of the BBA program at Wilfrid Laurier University. Reflecting on his 15 years of experience in the GMBA system, he describes learning the values of leadership, accountability, responsibility, and giving back to the community. So those are all values that my mother would have spoken highly of. Matthew has demonstrated all of this through his actions both on and off the field. On the field, he's described as a great player and an excellent teammate, always helping before being asked and mentoring the younger players. Off the field, Matthew has spent his spare time volunteering with Peak Performance, Sacred Heart School, and the Lakeside Hope House. We're grateful to be a part of your journey and wish you all the best as you pursue varsity and junior level baseball. Congratulations, Matt.
Thanks, Steph. Again, just a solid representation of how important your mom was to us. And I'm really happy that you were able to say a few words tonight to help us appreciate that. Thank you very much. So congrats to Scott and Matthew. Well done, guys. I tell you, those applications were phenomenal. I spend a lot of my time doing work for youth in our community, and to see what you guys have done and how you presented yourselves was incredible. Congrats. I'll be following up with you guys separately, but on a side note, we definitely needing well done. Everything that you did, everything that you said was incredible. It was a tough competition this year, but as GMBA ball players, you guys know all about that. So on behalf of the GMBA, Kiwanis, and our selection committee, I'd like to congratulate the winners, thank the runners up, and a special note to Mike and Steph for their time tonight as well. Great work. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff. Thanks, guys. Or Steph.
Great. Yeah, I got it, OJ. Yeah, thanks very much. We've got 2 volunteer awards to present to end the night with. And before we move into our election of directors, and I think Steph mentioned this, and it's so true. There are so many people deserving of these awards. So many. It's incredibly difficult to pick the right person, because it could be many of you on this meeting and many of our membership across the board who fit fit the mold for these awards. So we have 2 awards to present tonight. I'm going to start with our Volunteer of the Year award, and that person is Adam Fanjoy. And so Adam doesn't know this yet, because I had to keep it a little secret because he sits on our executive, so it's hard to keep this away from him. And I wanted to share a little bit about Adam's work with GMBA this year, because with so many of our volunteers, you could say without you, we wouldn't have had a season, and that's true for many of us. But for Adam, I can absolutely say that. Here's the roles that Adam took on for Guelph Minor Baseball this year. So he's our Vice President of Operations, right? And that in alone itself is a full-time job outside of his own job as a teacher, right? He was our registrar. I know there's registrars on this call who've done this job before. That's another full-time job. House league chair, umpire-in-chief, tournament chair, eliminations chair, and he sat on our grievance committee, our EBLO committee, our Constitutional Review Committee, our Capital Projects Committee, and our Executive Committee. I don't know where you found the time, man. I really don't. But I just want to say thank you. We talked about 1,000 kids playing baseball this year. It's because of people like you, Adam, and all of our volunteers who really stepped up. And so Steve Marshall's got a nice award for you. They've put together to recognize your efforts here this year. But it's on behalf of all of us at GMBA, just a real sincere thank you for all you've done for baseball this year, and congratulations, Adam.
Thank you so much. That's awesome, Jeff. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. The second award is our President's Award. And, again, there's so many people deserving of this award. And so I went a little different route with this award this year. The recipient of our President's Award is Rob Robinson. And so I'll tell you a little bit of a story about Rob, and then explain a little bit about why he was selected for this award. So I met Rob on the hockey front. He was leading the 8U, 7U, 6U development program at hockey, the tight novice age group for hockey. And I went to a meeting that Rob organized of all of us hockey parents. We tried to explain to all these parents why we're going to play half ice hockey and train half ice and do all this stuff in small area games. And I just remember him talking to parents who were like, if you know hockey parents, because there's many on this call, I know many of you, the big ice, a big deal. And Rob and his thoughtful, respectful way walked those parents through. And by the end, everybody's like, okay, that's the right thing to do, no question, right? That's who Rob is, right? And what I would say around our board table, and this is why I selected Rob for the President's Award this year, is that we're going to lose his leadership off the board this year, and it's a real loss for GMBA. He's really respected around the board table, and when he talks, it gets quiet, right? Rob is a listener, great listener around that table. He doesn't get involved in the politics of youth sports. He does not. It's beyond that for him. It's not emotional for Rob. It's just facts. He's got opinions, but they're respectful, right? There's this mature approach that comes through, and that when we had to make really big decisions and those tough decisions, Rob's voice really rings true and loud in that room, but he's not loud. He's just so respected. For me personally, as president of the last couple of years, one of the leaders that I would reach out to bounce ideas off as we look to move forward over the last couple of years. I steadfast the word I wrote down. I was thinking a bit about Rob. Even when things were tough, right? He kept us moving forward. And it's his thoughtful leadership that's helped us through some of these challenging discussions and decisions. And quite frankly, Rob, you're gonna be really missed around the board table, man. And so just on behalf of GMBA, thank you for all you've done over the years. Thank you for your leadership. And couldn't think of anybody more deserving of the President's Award this year. So thanks again, Rob.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Been involved with GMBA for 20 years in different capacities. So yeah, giving up my board seat this year, but will be around to volunteer and to help whatever the new board needs. Baseball's in my blood, so I'm not going too far. But thank you for your kind words, Jeff. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Got it. And Rob, we're kind of like the mafia here. You don't actually get to really leave, right? So it's kind of how.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right. I think that's it for our awards here. Great evening here, and so deserving, really deserving recipients tonight. Congratulations to everybody, and big thank you to all the committees who pulled that all together. We got one last piece of business if you'll stick around for us. I know I said to get you out of here in time for the baseball game. I'm sorry, I'm 20 minutes late. But we do need to elect our directors for the next board. So I'm going to turn us over to Eric here because I think that's next on our agenda, right? Might have missed anything. So yeah, election of our directors. So Eric's going to take us through the process for that, and then we'll wrap it up. Over to you, Eric.
Thanks, Jeff. I think I'd second to all the nominees and all of the recipients of those awards and scholarships. Fantastic job. That is amazing. And Rob, Adam, thanks for all that you guys did. Moving on to the board of directors. So I'm sure most of you guys got tired of all the emails that I was sending out throughout the last month or two, as well as social media posts and everything. We were really looking for people to step up. GMBA, we have a 12-person board. We're expecting to have 6 open positions every single year to go up through the election process. And this year, up until quite recently, we weren't sure we were going to get 6 people to step up. And thankfully, quite recently, we crossed that threshold. We actually have 8 applicants for the 6 open positions on the board. As part of the meeting prep package that I emailed out yesterday, should have all received a breakdown of each one of the applicants, as well as their ability to answer 2 questions we asked them as part of the application process that we would share with everybody. Why are you interested in joining GMBA or the GMBA board of directors? And what skills or experience do you have that would support your role on the board of directors? that package, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it's also available right up at the start of the chat. And really what we're looking for is everybody on the call now to vote through our 6 applicants. So there will be a form that will get posted by Jeff in the chat shortly. And within that, you can select up to 6 of the 8 applicants. And the highest vote totals are really what we're looking for to identify who participated through and who ultimately gets a position on the board. With that, the 8 applicants that we had are Lindsay Dickerson, Kevin Lynch, Jennifer Leachman, Dave Shapka, OJ McDonald, Steve Marshall, Greg Killingbeck, and Todd Bear. Jeff, if you could share that link for the vote. I'm really looking for everybody to put in 1 through 6, which of the one. You don't have to nominate 6 if you're comfortable with 3. We've put in 3, but we're really looking for the top 6 to be considered elected. I apologize.
And please only vote for 6, not 6 max, right, Eric?
It is 6 max. I think we tested out the form and you can't pick 7.
Yeah. Eric, do you want to talk about the threshold, the 20% threshold?
As part of the new constitution that we voted on at that special meeting in April, whose minutes we accepted at the beginning of this, which actually takes effect at this AGM, our minimum threshold to be considered elected is 20% of the vote. So we're looking for the top 6 and also having crossed 20% of the people available in there to vote. Now, I think as I look at it now, we're up to 26, or no, sorry, 33 participants still in the meeting. So that 26, 20%, we can figure out what it is. So really, we would be looking at 7 votes or more, assuming everybody stays on the call-in votes.
So we're up to 17 votes so far. We'll let this one go for a little bit to give everybody some time to get their vote in. We've got 19 responses so far. We're at 21 right now. We'll just give it another maybe 30 seconds here to see if anything else comes through. And I'll share my screen for you, Eric, to be able to.
And I just say for anybody, if you are in that list of 8, you also have a vote as well. Just if there's any confusion there, if you're in that list, you're also able to vote for yourself and 5 peers.
We've got 23 responses. What do you think, Eric?
I'm comfortable with another minute or 2.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, another one just came in, so it's important. This is important votes, so we'll take our time to get this all done.
So for those that aren't aware, if we end up with less than 6 who cross that threshold of 20%, then only those that cross the threshold will be considered elected. We would actually have a vacancy on the board, and then the board would be charged with actively trying to fill that vacancy, either through reposting, going through and board selecting out of the remaining applicants, whatever process the board chooses to tackle on the next open board meeting, which should likely occur right after this call.
Okay, so we're still at 24. What do you think, Eric? You think we're good?
Yeah, I think at this point, Jeff, if it's no longer trickling through, I think we can call it.
Okay, great. So I'll just switch screens here quickly. And you can see that there, Eric.
I can.
Do you want to read out the names just so for the record of who's been elected to the board?
Yeah, so if I am reading this correctly, we are going with OJ McDonald, Steve Marshall, Jennifer Leachman, Greg Killingwreck, and Dave Shapka, and Lindsay Dickerson.
Okay. I agree.
I'd like to congratulate Todd and Kevin. I will say there will be opportunities within GMBA to help out, and trust that the fact that you're willing to put your name up, we will be reaching out to you and finding areas to help. GMBA, if there's one thing, we are always looking for volunteers and help in any capacity that we can get it.
Here. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Eric. So for our board members that were just elected, we have a board meeting right after this meeting. So your work isn't done just yet for tonight. Between Eric and I, we're going to send you a quick email with the invite to that meeting. It won't take very long, but there's a little bit of work we need to do to elect the executive for GMBA for this year. So our existing board members and then the 6 that were elected tonight, look for that email from Eric or I as soon as we're done here, and we'll have a quick Google Meet. We'll hop out of Zoom and do a Google Meet, and with our board to get moving for this year. Okay. So with that takes us to the end of our board meeting here tonight, 8:40, and so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn tonight. Will somebody move that for us, please? Eric, perfect. And then the seconder, Dan. Okay, then we're just going to do it on screen here. Use your raise hand option to all in favor to adjourn tonight's AGM. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate all your support. Great year of baseball. Thanks for everything everybody's done, and looking forward to another great season in 2022. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.